Es que son las boy. Yo espero que tranque ahí.
The island of Gran Canaria is currently facing its most severe meteorological crisis in decades. As of today, March 25th, 2026, the island remains under a red weather alert as Storm Therese continues to dump unprecedented volumes of rain across the volcanic landscape, triggering widespread flash floods, devastating mudslides, and a total suspension of many public services. The crisis began on the weekend of March 21st to 22nd, when a deep Atlantic depression, internationally named Storm Therese, stalled over the Canary Islands. Unlike typical seasonal rains, this system brought a tropical moisture plume that collided with the island's high topography. In the central highlands of Gran Canaria, specifically in the municipalities of Tejeda and Artenara, rain gauges recorded a staggering 420 millimeters of rain in just 24 hours. This volume of water, falling on rocky and steep terrain, created a funnel effect, sending millions of cubic meters of water, mud, and debris down the natural ravines, barrancos, toward the densely populated coastal areas. Heavy rainfall caused the main GC2 highway to be partially swallowed by a landslide near El Pagador. Flash floods in the town centers have turned historic streets into brown rivers, sweeping away parked vehicles and flooding the basements of centuries-old buildings. The capital city has seen major disruptions. The Barrio de San Cristobal and areas near the Playa de las Canteras faced sea surges combined with urban flooding. The city's drainage system, overwhelmed by the intensity of the downpour, failed in several districts, leading to the closure of the tunnels on the GC1 and GC3 orbital motorways. Usually arid, the south saw the Barranco de Fataga roar to life. The massive flow of water reached the lighthouse area in Maspalomas, carrying debris into the sensitive dune ecosystems. Several luxury resorts reported flooding in lobby areas and underground parking facilities. The Cabildo de Gran Canaria, Island Council, has described the damage to infrastructure as colossal. More than 35 regional roads are currently impassable due to rockfalls and asphalt erosion. The interior of the island is effectively cut off, with mountain residents advised to remain indoors as silent landslides continue to pose a threat. Gran Canaria Airport, LPA, has faced hundreds of cancellations and diversions. While the runways remain operational, the visibility and high-altitude wind shears have made takeoffs and landings extremely hazardous. All ferry connections between Las Palmas and Santa Cruz de Tenerife have been suspended due to 6-meter-high waves. Approximately 18,000 households are without electricity after several transformation stations were inundated. Work crews from Endesa are struggling to reach affected areas due to the blocked roads. Over 3,000 people have been evacuated from high-risk zones near riverbeds and unstable slopes. Temporary shelters have been established in the Infacar Exhibition Center and several municipal sports complexes. Tragically, local authorities have confirmed 2 fatalities: a motorist swept away by a flash flood in Telde, and an elderly resident in Terror, whose home collapsed under a mudslide. Search and rescue operations are ongoing for at least 3 individuals reported missing in the Central Peaks. Meanwhile, the island of Lanzarote is currently in the grip of a severe meteorological emergency. As of Wednesday, March 25th, 2026, the popular holiday destination remains under orange and yellow weather alerts, as Storm Therese continues to batter the archipelago with torrential rain, gale-force winds, and destructive coastal surges. The crisis reached a tipping point over the last 48 hours. While the storm first made landfall earlier in the week, it intensified significantly between Monday, March 23rd, and Tuesday, March 24th, 2026. In the southern tourist hub of Playa Blanca, residents and holidaymakers described frightening scenes as streets were transformed into fast-flowing rivers within minutes. Intense convective storm cells dumped over 60 liters of water per square meter in just 2 hours in some areas. This volume exceeds the island's typical monthly average, overwhelming the volcanic soil's ability to absorb moisture. The municipalities of Arrecife, the capital, Teguise, San Bartolomé and Playa Blanca have borne the brunt of the flooding. In the residential and commercial suburb of Faro Park, numerous basement flats were reported as totally destroyed. Videos shared on social media showed cars fully submerged and water rushing through rows of supermarkets and restaurants. The capital's drainage system, designed for a semi-arid climate, completely failed, leading to reports of sewage backups and a strong smell across the city as floodwaters reached knee-deep levels in the historic center. In Punta Mujeres, powerful swells generated by Storm Therese destroyed sections of the seawall and promenade. Waves reaching up to 5 meters high coincided with high tide, causing further coastal inundation. On Sunday, March 22nd, worsening visibility and high winds forced at least 8 flights bound for Cesar Manrique Lanzarote Airport, ACE, to be diverted to Fuerteventura and Gran Canaria. Blocked roads and a lack of public transport made it impossible for many departing travelers to reach the airport on time, leading to significant delays and cancellations. Emergency Services 112 recorded over 150 weather-related incidents in a single 2-hour window earlier this week. Fire crews have been deployed to pump water from submerged garages and assist motorists stranded in ravines. In neighboring Gran Canaria, the Military Emergency Unit, UME, has been called in, and units remain on standby to assist Lanzarote if conditions worsen tonight. Portions of Costa Teguise and Arrecife experienced prolonged power failures as substations were inundated. Meanwhile, the historic coastal city of Puerto de la Cruz is facing a catastrophic weather event as Storm Therese unleashed torrential rainfall across northern Tenerife. As of Wednesday, March 25, 2026, the city remains under a red weather alert, with emergency services struggling to contain the fallout from flash floods that have transformed scenic promenades into dangerous torrents of mud and debris. The crisis reached its zenith in the early hours of March 25th. While the Canary Islands had been on high alert since the weekend, a stationary storm cell anchored itself over the Orotava Valley. In less than 6 hours, weather stations in the higher elevations above Puerto de la Cruz recorded over 180 millimeters of rain, nearly double the average rainfall for the entire month of March. The steep topography of northern Tenerife acted as a natural funnel. Water from the tide foothills cascaded down toward the coast, overwhelming the city's drainage network and causing the barrancos, ravines, to burst their banks simultaneously. The world-famous Lago Martianes swimming complex has suffered significant damage. Floodwaters carrying volcanic silt and rocks breached the perimeter, inundating the pools with mud. The coastal promenade, Paseo de San Telmo, was rendered impassable as waves from the Atlantic met the outflow of floodwater from the city streets. Several hotels in the low-lying La Paz and Martianes districts were forced to move guests to upper floors or evacuate them to secondary shelters after ground floor lobbies and electrical rooms were submerged. The heart of the city, Plaza del Charco, saw water levels reach over 1 meter. Local businesses, including historic cafes and boutiques, have reported total losses of stock and structural damage. The TF5 motorway, the main artery connecting Puerto de la Cruz to the capital Santa Cruz and the North Airport, has seen multiple closures due to landslides near El Sozal and La Orotava. While Tenerife North Airport, TFN, remains officially open, high winds and low visibility have led to the cancellation or diversion of over 40 flights. Tourists are advised not to attempt travel to the airport until road conditions improve. Emergency operators, 112, have logged more than 300 incidents in Puerto de la Cruz alone. Most involved motorists trapped in submerged vehicles or elderly residents stranded in their homes. Units from the Military Emergencies Unit, UME, have been dispatched from their base in Los Rodeos to assist with heavy machinery to clear mud and rocks from the city's main access points. Fortunately, no fatalities have been confirmed in the city as of this report, though 2 people are being treated for hypothermia and minor injuries after being rescued from a flooded basement in the Punta Brava district. Meteorologists from AMET warn that the tail of Storm Therese could bring another wave of intense rain tonight. The phenomenon is being linked to an unusually warm Atlantic, which has allowed storm systems to retain more moisture than typical March patterns. The mayor of Puerto de la Cruz issued a stern warning this morning. We are facing a force majeure event. Our priority is the safety of our citizens and the thousands of visitors currently in our city. Please stay indoors, avoid coastal areas, and do not attempt to move vehicles until the red alert is lifted. Preliminary estimates suggest that the cost of repairs to public infrastructure in Puerto de la Cruz could exceed 25 million euros. The local government is expected to request catastrophe zone status from Madrid to access emergency recovery funds. The timing is particularly painful for the local economy, as the city was preparing for a busy Easter holiday season. Meanwhile, Fuerteventura, which often goes months without significant rainfall, has been hit by a tropical moisture plume associated with Storm Therese. While the western islands like Tenerife and Gran Canaria bore the initial brunt, the storm moved east across the archipelago, reaching peak intensity in Fuerteventura between March 21st and March 24th, 2026. Localized thunderstorms dumped moderate to intense rain, with some areas recording sudden accumulations that the island's parched soil could not absorb. Authorities issued urgent warnings for urban areas and barrancos, ravines, as dry riverbeds rapidly transformed into dangerous torrents of mud and debris. A coastal alert remains in effect as waves exceeding 4 meters battered the shoreline. In Las Playitas, the promenade sustained damage from the combined force of the swell and spring tides. Several secondary roads and access points to remote beaches in Jandia and Corralejo were temporarily closed due to water accumulation and the risk of rockfalls. In the capital, Puerto del Rosario, and the tourist hub of Caleta de Fuste, drainage systems were overwhelmed, leading to localized street flooding and damage to ground floor commercial properties.